All right, boxing essential movements part 2. Talking about slipping and dipping today. So we're going to do the same kind of drill where we get squared up, right? We're working on balance and coordination, and then this stuff will transfer over to your stance. You know, it'll start happening naturally. Just do these exercises, you know, stationary, standing still, squared up, learn the balance, get comfortable with them, and then you'll notice when you get in your stance and when you start doing your normal kind of boxing training, shadow boxing, you know, it's going to start just happening, and you won't have to think about these things so much, and they'll feel more comfortable. You'll feel, you know, more unbalanced. You know, it'll just help. Trust me. Try them out. Okay, so today, slipping, dipping, rolling, you know, we'll talk about that today. So, slipping, rolling, head movement, all right? It's called head movement, but everything comes from the hips, right? Same thing with your punches, a lot of this stuff. Most of your movements are coming from the hips. That's what's causing your head to move. That's what's causing your arm, you know, to punch. Comes from the ground up, the hips.
It's all in the head. Yeah, it's all in the hips.
All right. So, starting from your square stance, my feet are pretty much on the same line horizontally. I'm just like I'm standing normally, right? That's how you want to stand when you're learning these movements, because it's more natural, it's more symmetrical, right? So try it out. We're going to stand normally like this. And then to get the slips, right, you do the weight shift. Boom. So you shift your weight, bend your knees slightly, drop it, and you do a little hip hinge, all right? So a hip hinge. You might have to practice this movement. Hip hinge. I hinge from the hips. You keep your back straight. Drop down slightly like this. If you need to get lower, you can. But you only need to go as far down to avoid the punch. You don't need to go all the way down if you don't need to, okay? So keeping your back straight is really important. You see a lot of people, you know, Tyson, when he was younger, he would do this, you know, he would do his head movement and his spine would be kind of twisting around. He looked like a bobblehead. And you see people, they're mimicking that. It's not a good idea, right? You can copy, you can emulate Mike Tyson and stuff, but you want to keep your back straight. So these movements are coming from the hips and the hip hinge. Your back stays straight. You can test to make sure your back's staying straight. If you hold a stick to your back, hold a stick to your back. Okay, and you shouldn't lose contact. So to get these really, you know, to perfect your slips, what you do is you kind of shift like you were going to punch. You turn your hip and you drop down just a little bit. Again, like in part 1, don't let your head go too far out over your knee, because you're going to lose balance. The way I kind of like check to make sure I'm doing these things right, I shift, and if I drop my arm, it should go straight down like this. And I check, I feel nice and balanced here. If someone tried to push me, I could, you know, I could lean in. If I needed to get lower, I can hinge lower, right? That's just how I check. I don't, you know, you wouldn't do that in real life, but that's just how you test to see that you've done it, you know, right. Okay? So do the same thing on the other side. Slip, drop the arm down just to check your balance, okay? Hinge. There you go. Okay? So those are your slips. Now the rolls, similar to part one, you shift your weight, take a little tiny step just to maintain your balance, and roll that weight. Roll. Again, the head movement's coming from the motion of the hips and the hip hinge, right? Keeping your back straight, right? So from there, you know, you do these things standing still, and then you can start adding your punches. Boom, slip, boom, boom, slip, boom, boom, slip. Okay, so from there, you know, once you get the rolls down, slips, mix it up, and start adding your punches. And then you can start moving around, and you'll notice, you feel more balanced. Everything feels more locked in when you start moving around. All right, so that's the benefit of practicing squared up, standing still. All right. So one more thing is the dip, or just duck. So it's basically just kind of almost like a little squat. So you can practice that one as well. Boom, boom. You know, add just a little turn of the hip, and it becomes kind of like a duck slip. So that one's pretty simple, but it's a great move, because you pretty much, any punch coming at you, even if you're in a bad position, you know, completely squared up, if someone throws a punch, you know, pretty much anything they throw at you, you can block or avoid just by dipping like that. Okay, so you can't just keep doing it. You got to be unpredictable, but that can get you away from a punch or two. You know, add a step, and it's basically a roll. All right, so try it out. Do them first thing in the morning, right before you go to bed. You know, at least 5-10 minutes straight, and you'll notice a big change. All right, so try it out. You know, you'll notice a big change. And do the YouTube thing, like, subscribe, and you know, peace.